recording, so it's gone and lost forever, right? All right, so here's what we do. Primarily, like we said, we're dealing with maintenance and light repair. And this is really a much more appropriate program for what we're able to achieve than, say, for instance, tune-up, which is the old title of the class that this used to be. Because in order to be a good tune-up technician anymore, you can't do that in 60 hours or 120 hours. I don't think. You can change parts, but nobody's going to put you in a position of doing. Nobody's going to put you in a position of that level of liability with 60 hours of training. Remember, 60 hours is a week and a half full time, right? I mean, I barely let you run my lawnmower, at that level. So maintenance and light repair. Well, okay, so maintenance and light repair, the reason we are focusing on that is because it's 80% of entry level jobs, which primarily have to do with maintenance, which is to say keeping things running well, and light repair, which is to say changing belts and stuff like that. So we're not going to be doing engine swaps, and we're not going to be, changing out cylinder heads or putting in new intake valves. The stuff we're going to do is pretty low level, but it turns out low level is most of what needs to be done, and more importantly, it's the most important stuff that needs to be done. For instance, you buy a used car. Okay, so now you got a used car. It's a stranger to you. What do? Well, the most important things to do there is not buy a fancy stereo, is not buy a fancy exhaust, not buy fancy wheels and tires. The most important thing to do is go through that car safety inspection, right? Go through it on a safety inspection. We're going to put it up in the air. We're going to do an undercar inspection. That means we're going to look underneath it. We're going to see if we can find some kind of frame damage, some kind of structural damage. We're going to take the wheels off it so we can do brake checks, so we can do suspension and steering checks. We are going to open up the hood and we're going to inspect the hoses. We're going to inspect the radiator cap. We're going to inspect the air filter housing, all kinds of stuff like that that could conceivably grenade this engine if you don't get it right the first time. For instance, we're going to check the condition of your brake fluid. You're supposed to check your brake. You're supposed to change your brake fluid every 5 years. Probably want to write that down. You're supposed to change your brake fluid every 5 years. Guess how many people do it?
2.
Never.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, you and Chuck. Yeah, exactly. And the reason you're supposed to change your brake fluid every 5 years is because it's alcohol. It's hydroscopic, which means it attracts water. It can attract up to 20% of its volume in water every year, which means after 5 years, you could have 50% water. Well, that's the only thing that kills your calipers and your wheel cylinders and your master cylinders is the water in your brake fluid. So if you were to take that out, you would pretty much have no brake problems almost ever as long as you checked your linings. You wouldn't be replacing calipers and wheel cylinders and master cylinders, that's for sure. Nobody ever changes their brake fluid. So the first thing I would suggest after you get a used car, the first thing you want to do is you want to flush out all that old stuff and put new stuff in it. And that is a somewhat lengthy job because you're going to want to do it 2 or 3 times just to make sure you get all the old stuff out.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
I need to do that to my car. I need a second person, right?
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Well, Chris Fix has a thing on YouTube where you do it with one.
Yeah. Oh. Chris Fix, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, it makes it easier to do with 2, but no, actually, we've got a lot of equipment for doing brake service that will actually make it much quicker. basically what we do is we try to get as much of the old fluid out of the master cylinder as possible. Keep adding more, take it out, add more, take it out. And you say, isn't that wasteful? Yeah, but brake fluid's like $3 for a gallon. Well,
With the
$8 a gallon.
with the turkey baster, right?
Yeah, with a turkey baster, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we end up doing is, you know, because new brake fluid is light gold and clear. And when you get under the hood, in fact, if you were to look under the hood of your car tomorrow, you're going to see that yours is
It's
dark
black.
brown. Yeah, it's black. Yeah, exactly. And the weird part is that's rust. That's how rusty it is. Yeah. And that rust is caused by one thing, water in your brake fluid, which just goes to show you that it's never been changed because nobody ever changes it. It's like coolant. Nobody ever changes it. They should. And I'll start my coolant lecture next. But what we do is we empty out the reservoir, master cylinder reservoir, of as much old brake fluid as we can. We keep dumping new, mixing it up, suck it out, dump in new, mix it up, suck it out. And we get the reservoir as clean as we can. Then we go down to each individual wheel and start sucking the old brake fluid through. And you can literally see it in the clear plastic tube because you're going to be sucking it and it's going to be black, dark brown, brown, gold, and then it's going to run light gold. And at that point, you've pretty much drained out all the old brake fluid. You can see it with your eyes, but you got to, you know, buy a couple of the big things of brake fluid because you're going to be going through a bunch of it. Incidentally, brake fluid, once it open, you know, if it's been on your dad's shelf for 15 years, just throw it away or down the sink. It's alcohol. You can just pour it down the sink. You don't want to use old brake fluid because it just starts attracting water right away. It's like hydrogen peroxide. If you leave it open for a year or two, you can smell it. It's not even hydrogen peroxide anymore. It's turned into water.
And you like the synthetic?
I'm glad Rudy's not here to answer that question. We'd be here till 10. But I don't know if you can mix the synthetic with the regular stuff.
Oh, really?
And I've talked to the guys at the parts houses and they don't know either. I suspect the answer was no, but if you couldn't, then wouldn't that mean you'd have to drain out all your brake fluid to use it?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it seems to me like it should mix.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd have to start with a brand new brake system.
Can I chime in?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Matter of fact, you told me about it on, O'Reilly's sells the synthetic brake fluid.
Well, I bought a bunch of it.
Yeah, and it's .3, and
Right.
It's not really more expensive than the regular brake fluid, and does not say anything about not mixing it with standard brake fluid, and that's what I've been using. Seems to work, or at least gives me that confidence.
Right. Good. Appreciate it, Chuck.
I
Hey,
bought some.
Rocliffe, can I say something?
Please.
I mix it in all the time since I had the green car, and I've never had a problem with it.
Okay.
One of the managers said from AutoZone said you can't do that, but they're not supposed to share that because then they won't sell, you know, the cheap one.
And you know, whoever says that, if they discover that it doesn't work, there's a huge amount of liability involved. So that's probably why nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe if you go from .3 to .4 or .5, yeah, you might have some issues.
Well, see, .5 used to be the synthetic brake fluid. It's what you'd get in Porsches and really high-end cars like that, the pink stuff. But this is just .3. Yeah, it sounds like we're going to have to talk about brakes tonight, which is probably a good idea anyway, since it's such a common part of what we do. But .3, .4, .5, these are all different classifications of brake fluid. And they've just come out, well, it's become popular to have the synthetic .3 now. And the question is, can you mix it with the old school .3? And I'm suspecting you can, but I'm going to look into that further and find out. So anyway, my point was you're supposed to change that every 5 years. Nobody does. Now, your coolant, you're supposed to change that, I believe, every 2 years. The green stuff, you're supposed to change it every 2 years. Nobody does. Nobody does. And the problem is, though, this is the important part you need to understand, folks. When you don't change your coolant, it turns acidic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't mean the guys with the curls come down like that was
Ah,
Stressed out, yeah.
acidic. It turns acidic. Now, the problem is when we have a bunch of aluminum engines, which is a soft metal, what do you think acid does to the aluminum engines?
Rust.
It eats it up. Yeah, it eats it up hard. I mean, it just pulls big chunks of it out. Plus, what do you think that acid does to our head gaskets? It eats it up hard, which is why you don't have to change your coolant for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. But something tells me after 20 years, that coolant is going to be well chewed through on the head gaskets.
yeah.
That's probably what explains how some people get, 400,000 out of the same engine that other people get 200,000, right? If you never change your coolant, you're going to have problems.
Yeah,
And
gonna
sure
tear up the
enough,
water pumps.
what's it what?
Gonna tear up the impellers on the water pumps.
Yep. Actually, Chuck, did I tell you that General Motors insists that when you replace intake manifold gaskets, General Motors themselves tell you you're supposed to get 2 of those little bottles of that silver stuff,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to dump that in the radiator. That's General Motors' official policy. And the reason is because when you pull off that intake manifold, which is going to be made of plastic or aluminum, and in fact, that's probably one of the main reasons they went to plastic. When you pull off that intake manifold, you're going to see how the coolant has eaten up the coolant passages inside your aluminum heads and your aluminum intake manifold. And what's going to happen is if you just put it back together bone dry like we used to, it's going to leak. So they want 2 bottles, not 1, but 2 bottles of that silver stuff. It's about the size of a roll of quarters. Radiator stop leak, I think they call it. Folks, if you're going to use that, make sure you read the directions and do it exactly the way they say. Yeah, because it can clog your radiator if you do it wrong. So anyway, the point I was trying to make was that these are all things you find out the hard way. Yeah, there's a lot of engines running around with a whole lot of damage to the interior of the cooling system and the head gaskets based on the fact that they've got old coolant. Now, would I replace my coolant every 2 years, being the slug I am? No, but every 5 years you better. And I'm not talking about opening up the drain cock on the bottom of the radiator and just letting the fluid dump out into the gutter, because that leaves probably a third of your coolant capacity still inside the engine, which means then you put in fresh coolant and now you just got, as soon as you fire it up, it's diluted by 1/3 with old coolant. I mean, it's better, but it's not right.
You gotta
This
flush
is
it.
one of those things. Yeah, this is one of those things where I'm going to take it down to Jiffy Lube or whatever, and I'm going to say, here, suck it up, right? Every 5 years, I'm going to spend. Jerry, how much does it cost to get a coolant flush and refill?
It depends what city you go to.
It was 180 for me.
180, you could buy another truck just like.
I know.
Yeah.
Last I heard, Rudy said this one kid 120.
Yeah, he's probably doing it with a garden hose, Prestone. Yeah.
No. A family-owned shop.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's probably taking all the old antifreeze up to Mount Wilson.
Big Bear.
Can I ask you a question? How do you
Yeah.
use the coolant testers? I bought one, but I haven't even read the instructions yet. But how do you do them?
Which coolant testers? There's
So it's like a little thing, a kit you buy. I'll read it.
talking-
Never mind.
Are you talking about testing it for combustion gases?
Just to see if it's good, I guess. I don't know. I just
Okay,
bought one
so
for the
it's
heck
like
of
a
it.
pH So it's like a pH strip then.
Sorta.
Yeah, so it's going to test for the acidity of the coolant.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a pH. It is a pH strip. Just like,
It
well.
was only $3, so I just bought it.
Yeah, okay, well, there you go. So my point was that, yeah, this is the thing about not changing your fluid, folks. So not changing your fluid is a big deal. And in fact, that's why if you're doing this kind of operation where you're working at a Jiffy Lube or a Quick Tune or whatever place like that, you can be confident that you're not just trying to goose this person for maintenance. You're actually trying to help them, keep their stuff together. So like I said, we're talking about you just bought a used car and it's a stranger to you. We're going to take off the radiator cap and we're going to inspect it. And most of the times you're going to find out that radiator cap, the seal is cracked. Okay, well, that could cost you an engine, for $8, it's worth getting another radiator. you know, and we're going to test it, make sure everything works. We're going to make sure that stuff isn't broken, because after all, we can do a much better job of inspecting it with the professional tools we have. We can do a much better job of inspecting it than you can at this person's house, the guy that you bought it from. And of course, we're going to put it on the full function scanner, and we're going to see what kind of problems it really has. Look for, you know, bad fuses, all kinds of stuff like that. So the reason we do that is because we want to know, because knowing is better than not knowing. And the problem is, if you don't know, if you like being ignorant because you're afraid you might find out something you don't like, everything comes as a surprise, and as a horrible surprise too. Because it's like, yeah, that's a bad example. Well, you'll be driving to your kid's wedding and the car will break down. You know, it always happens at the worst time. So that's why what we're going to do is we're just going to calmly go through the whole car, and we're going to find out what's good and what's bad, what's worth fixing, what's not, what we have to fix tonight, and what we can leave till 3 months from now, and what we can do next week, right? So it inspires us to create a plan of action that's going to allow the car to be a good part of our life instead of freaking treacherous misery. Basically, it's like dog whisperer, right? We're gonna take this car and we're gonna make it a part of our pack, and we're gonna make it functional, productive, and happy, and enjoyable to be around. So that's huge, because a car can make you or break you, and that's primarily what we want to accomplish. Okay, so if you're going to use a scanner, that means you're going to have to learn how to use a scanner. And Dave, you're right. Okay, so what do we do? So we say, okay, so I'm going to make myself a plan of action. I want to check the fluids. I want to check the belts. I want to check the hoses. I want to check the brakes. I want to check the suspension. And then I can go to Chris Fix and say, okay, well, look, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. This is how you do this. And, you know, it's okay to say, well, this is how you check the battery when it's some generic battery. But if it's for your particular car, that's way better. I gotta say, folks, it's true for most of you. Nobody expects you to know anything, or not much anyway. But it's always better to know as much as you can, because that way you need less explained to you. And the problem is, if you take the people who are experts in the class, if they're required to explain stuff to you that you could otherwise gather, then that takes them off a job that they may be really necessary for. Because a lot of times, we'll be in the middle of a process and something really terrible will break. And it's like, okay, there's only a couple of people in this room that can fix this. And if it doesn't get fixed, either I'm staying there till midnight, which would suck, or this car stays here till next Thursday, which would suck even worse. Or, you know, I could maybe have my class, you know, the next morning fix it or something like that. There's lots of ways around it, but there's nothing as good as driving in and driving out. That's what I'm trying to make sure you understand. So maintenance and light repair comprises of 80% of the entry-level jobs, and this class is a vocational ed class. It's supposed to be preparing you for entry-level position in this industry. Like I said, 8% quarterly growth. If you want to get a better job, there's better jobs for the taking. Gabe, how's your resume looking? Why don't you send it to me? Send me your resume. I'll look it over for you, yeah? Could make a big difference, because I got to tell you, now's the time to be moving up. 8% quarterly growth. Gabe, tell you what, tell me what IBEW says next week, because you don't talk to IBEW this week, I'm not going to be happy with you. And I'm not talking about making a phone call. I'm talking about getting your little booty down there and talking to somebody, because if there's 8% growth, then the unions have got to be feeling it too. Go get some, dude. Get some. Because, okay, Gabe, my question to you is, and you don't have to answer this because it's kind of a private question, but do you have a retirement at the place where you work? The reason I bring this up is because many of these private companies, what they do is they wait until like a year before you're supposed to retire, and they just fire you.
Wow.
So they don't have to pay you retirement. I've seen that a dozen times. Well, at least.
Appreciate
So at least the union won't do that to you, hopefully, theoretically. Maybe I'm fooling myself. In fact, it looks like they may even be offering people like me golden handshakes. That's the rumor. That's the question. Right? Right? Which is good because that'll give Chuck the opportunity to take my job. Chuck wants my job. You know, ever since
No,
I
he
met
doesn't.
I'm too old.
Ever since I'm, yeah, me too, brother. Ever since I met Chuck Reyna, I knew he wanted to take my job. Well, you may get your chance, buddy. You may get your chance. Well, you can't beat the pay and, well, you can probably beat the working conditions, but I do have air conditioning in the shop. I mean, that's, oh, did I mention we have air conditioning in the shop? No extra charge. Or did I mention we have air conditioning in the shop and it's $20 a night? Yeah, we have air conditioning in the shop. Probably won't need it by the time we get there, but anyways, so maintenance and light repair. Light repair means we don't do major surgery, but you know, we do brake jobs and such. We have done struts. It's ended badly a lot of times because that ends up being like a 3 or 4 hour job unless me, Chuck, or Rudy does it in general. Hopefully we'll find out about other people and what skills they have. So just so you know, we aren't going to do engine rebuilds. We're not going to be changing head gaskets or anything like that, but we can do stuff, change light bulbs, change radiators, whatever. We can do a lot of stuff as long as you understand that you need to do your part before class begins. Incidentally, I'm going to have an ROP right before this class that's going to go from 2:15 to 5:45. Now, technically, we're not supposed to let you in the gate before 6, which would suck because that means we couldn't even get started on any cars before 6. So in general, I like to get the gate open at about 5:30, something like that, so people can start trailing in. They are not going to enjoy the mingling of adults and children, so let's not overdo it or create an issue, but I'm just telling you that it's always better to have more time than less, right? It's always better to be done an hour early than 10 minutes late. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of stuff we're talking about today. All right, so what do we need to know? Well, we can talk about fluids. Let's talk about fluids. Hard to talk about fluids without talking about the systems they work in. Well, let's talk about brakes. Might as well break the ice. Well, brakes gotta slow or stop the vehicle. And what chapter in the book is this going to be?
I was just looking at it here.
15?
Now, to answer your question, the book is not truly aligned with what we do in this class, but what we do in this class is kind of. I'm sorry?
It's page 181, I think. Yeah.
Chapter 15.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, so the book is not truly aligned with what we're doing in this class, but what we're doing in this class is actually this book right here, except this is like a $110 book. And I thought that that would be prohibitive for most people, especially since they're not planning on becoming technicians. Now, if you were taking this class at Citrus or something like that, this would be the primo book because that would be hundreds of hours as opposed to 60 or 120. There's another book. Well, okay, so you see the name of that book? James Holloman, good book. But I think that's the first edition, right? Yeah, that's first edition. If you could get this used, it might be a smart move. However, this book looks older, so it'd probably be cheaper. This is by Rob Thompson, called Automotive Maintenance and Light Repair. You got a camera? Take a picture of it. Rob Thompson, Thompson, and that's a smaller book, but I'm sure it's at least an 80 or 100 page book. Might be 60. Anyway, it's got a lot of details to it, you know, repairing wiring and stuff. It's got a lot of details to it. It's kind of too hardcore for what we're trying to accomplish. So what I didn't want to do is box people out by having a textbook that was too expensive, because if we make the textbook too expensive, then people just won't buy any book. And I thought that auto upkeep was much better than no book. And probably for most people better than this. However, if you really want to learn this stuff, if you're really hardcore about it, you might want to consider buying this book or the other book. Now, let me ask you a question. Does it matter if you get an old edition? No. In fact, I would suggest it because the old editions are going to be cheap. This is 2014. Unfortunately, this is a relatively new program, so you're going to have a hard time finding old versions of this book. But maybe you can find one with a damaged cover or something like that. I don't know. But let's go on. All right, brakes are going to slow or stop the vehicle. How? They're going to do it by friction. Yep. And friction is defined as resistance of two things moving across each other. So for instance, if you had ice moving across glass, that would be low friction. If you had skin moving across asphalt, that would be high friction. Well, the important part about that is friction creates
heat.
Yep, heat. And that's a big deal because heat is the enemy. Heat is the enemy in a whole lot of ways. And one of the ways is the fluid, right? Because if you get water in the brake fluid and it gets hot, guess what happens to it? It turns into steam. Now all of a sudden you lose your solid pedal. That's called spongy pedal when hot. And that's a sign that you got water in your brake fluid. Change your brake fluid. Usually you're not going to discover you have that problem until you really, really need it. Yeah, until you really, really wish you didn't have it. So.
Or you go over a hill.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to the US Festival in 1983 when it was the only time I've ever experienced brake fade. My 65 Malibu. We're going to the US Festival in 1983 and I come down that hill in Devore and it's like I step on the brakes going around the corner and it's like, fellas. Hey, fellers.
Put your feet up.
Yeah, might as well tighten them seatbelts. US Festival. Yeah, there you go.
Was that the first time? Oh, sorry.
First time I went to the US Festival?
No, was that the first US Festival?
Yeah.
The first US Festival.
83, 84?
Yeah.
Oh,
you too?
Man.
You too?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And how would you know?
I do.
Your grandpa tell you about that?
No, I've been into music for a long time, since I was a little kid.
Anyway, so the point I was trying to make was we're going to make friction, and we're going to make friction by using friction materials. And that's what we need to focus on this evening. There's two main types of brakes. That would be drum brakes and disc brakes. I'm going to teach you disc brakes just because it's kind of quick. And I think what I'm going to do, well, let me get to that in a moment. So here's what I'm going to do. This is a top view, which means I'm looking down from the top at this. And doggone it, I'm going to have this little thing here, going in this little thing here. Can't do it this way. Can't do it this way. It's too abstract. People aren't going to understand it. So let me do this, and I'll be right there. Well, that's a caliper. That, and that's not what I need. What I need is there we go. Okay. This is the disc brake assembly, and it's called the disc brake assembly, right? Frenos de disco. It's called the disc brake assembly because this is called the brake disc, often called the rotor. Now, the rotor spins. This setup has been used in aircraft, it turns out, since the 30s. And the reason it works so well is because if this gets wet, if the rotor gets wet, centrifugal force will throw the water off. Plus, the brake pads here will actually wipe the water off. See, if you get water inside drum brakes, it'll just get trapped inside the drum and you'll lose friction, which means it won't stop as well. So this is disc brakes. It's the most common type of brakes on modern vehicles. And we can see right here the wheel studs, which is what the lug nut's attached to. I believe we talked about that. And this is the wheel hub that contains the wheel bearings, which allow the hub to spin on the shaft. Remember, bearings allow either a shaft to spin inside a housing or something to spin on a shaft. Bearings, like a skateboard bearing or a bicycle bearing or wheel bearings. Now, this right here is the disc brake assembly. It consists of a rotor, and it's called a rotor because it rotates. This is the easy way to remember this stuff. It's called a rotor because it rotates, and as you can see, it's going to spin at the exact same speed as the wheel, entire assembly. Over here, we have what's called a caliper, and you can remember it's called a caliper because it's shaped like a C, like this. And what the caliper is going to do is, I got a brake pad here and a brake pad here. The rotor's in between, and it's going to squeeze the brake pads against the rotor. Well, right here's the rotor. This silver part is the rotor. It's got these ventilating slots to allow airflow in because it's going to get really hot. And then on either side of this rotor are friction materials bonded to a piece of steel called a backing plate, and that's called brake pads. Inner brake pad, outer brake pad. Comes back down to here. That's the backing plate right there, you can see. This caliper has a piston on the inside, and a piston is just like a cup. When you put fluid on the back of the cup, it's going to push the cup like this. And what it's going to do is it's going to squeeze the friction material against the rotor and stop it from spinning. Over here is a flexible brake hose that goes to your master cylinder. It's called the master cylinder because it's going to control all the brakes at each wheel. Over here is the bleeder valve. Every valve does the same thing. It controls flow. Intake valve, exhaust valve, purge valve. Every valve does the same thing. It controls flow. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to take air out of the system because we want to have a firm pedal when we step on the brakes. And the only way the hydraulic system is really going to work is if all the air is out of the system. That's what's going to give us the firm pedal. If you've got air in the brakes, when you step on the pedal, it's going to feel like you're stepping on a balloon because basically what you're doing is you're compressing the air that's left in the system. You'll notice that the bleeder valve is always at the top of the caliper because that's where the air is always going to be in a liquid system. Hydraulic, hydro meaning liquid or water actually, yeah. So this is the caliper. It's got a piston inside that's going to squeeze these two pads against that rotor and stop it from spinning so fast or stop it from spinning, period. So I'm going to show you, I think, one video instead of 1,000. Let's see. Okay, let's try this one. Now, do me a solid.
The caliper assembly consists of
sorry. Sorry. Okay, the name of this video is, doing this Zoom, you really need to have two monitors. I'm finding that that is the key. I'm going to have this Zoom thing perfected the day before we go back into the classroom. Okay, so the name of this video is How Disc Brakes Works. Yeah, I know it's wrong. How Disc Brakes Works, Part 1. Part 2 is going to show you how the master cylinder works and how the power booster works. So this can be your homework. But let me show you, because it's going to be impossible to explain to you if I don't show you at least something. All right, Pascal's law. Pascal's law says that in a closed container, pressure is the same everywhere and in all directions. That's the basic principle of hydraulics. That means that we can create a pressure in a closed system at the master cylinder, and that pressure will be transmitted to each of the brakes. I hope so badly that we have high school football. I can't even begin to tell you. And there's a demonstration, right? We're pushing down on this liquid, and the pressure is going to be the same everywhere and in all directions. Okay. Over here,
Keep simple.
no. Over here, we can see basically a syringe. And we can see that if we push down this plunger, the fluid will be forced to come over here, and it'll push this piston up. Well, this is like the master cylinder. This is like the caliper piston. When we create pressure by stepping on the pedal, brake pedal, it's going to create fluid pressure that's going to be transmitted to the calipers, which is going to push the piston this way, which is going to squeeze the brake material against the rotor and slow it down or stop it. They will give you a better ejemplo really quick. In fact, I will probably give you a better ejemplo really quick. But I just wanted to show you a bunch of mathematical formulas which we will find interesting, but I'm not going to do them.
Surface. But it would
See, as this gets pressed down, this piston moves up. That's why they call it a force multiplier or fluid power, because I can take energy over here and move it over there.
will be a factor of the ratio of two piston surfaces. This concludes. See how this works in.
All I'm going to do is show you the general principle, and then I'm going to show you how it looks on the card. Now, here we have the wheel and tire assembly. There's the tire. There's the wheel. These four silver things are the lug nuts that hold the wheel to the hub. Red thing is the caliper. This silver rotor looking thing is the disc brake rotor.
See the exploded view of the car wheel and the parts involved.
Okay, there's the lug nuts. There's the wheel. There's the tire. There's the disc brake rotor. As you can see, it's got holes drilled in it so that air can flow more readily through the rotor to keep it cooler because it's going to get hot. This thing is the wheel hub. Those are wheel studs. You remember from last week. The red thing is the caliper. And then here and here are the brake pads.
The wheel hub assembly, the disc brake rotor, the brake caliper assembly, the wheel and the lug nuts. The wheel hub assembly holds the wheel and the disc rotor, and the bearing inside it allows their smooth rotation.
Every bearing allows a shaft to rotate in a housing or something to rotate on a shaft.
The disc rotor is the part to which the brake pads squeeze against. This will create friction that retards the rotation of the wheel. The disc rotor produces a lot of heat due to this friction, and the drilled holes provides ventilation to remove this heat. The brake caliper assembly uses the hydraulic force from the brake pedal to squeeze the brake pads to the rotor surfaces, thus creating friction and decelerates the wheel.
Okay, that right there is the caliper. That's where the brake line attaches to. The black thing is the piston, which is going to push out of the caliper and squeeze the brake pads against the rotor. And that's the brake pad here and the brake pad here. As you can see, it's got the black steel backing plate and it's got the gray brake linings, which is going to do the actual friction work.
The caliper assembly consists of the caliper bracket, slider pins, dust boots, inner brake pad, outer brake pad, caliper frame, and inside it, the piston. The caliper frame is having a banjo fitting through which the fluid will reach till the piston. The pressurized fluid from the pedal's side is capable of pushing the piston with great force. Also, the caliper frame is free to slide along the slider pins within the fixed extent. Now we know.
And that's the part that's bolted to the spindle, if you remember our lessons from earlier.
the parts. Let's see how it works.
Let's.
When you apply the brake, the caliper will receive the high-pressure hydraulic fluid from the brake master cylinder. The fluid will push the piston, which makes the inner brake pad to squeeze against the disc rotor surface. As a result, the fluid's backward force will push the caliper frame along the slide pin, which makes the outer brake pad to squeeze against the other side of the disc rotor. Let's see one more time from the top view.
All right, here we go. This is the drawing I was just trying to make, but I figured you wouldn't understand it unless you saw this illustration. That's the rotor, and it's spinning. This right here is the caliper. Inside the caliper is the piston. There's the brake line right there. Inner brake pad, friction material facing towards the rotor. Outer brake pad, friction material facing towards the rotor. Right here is the caliper. It's made of cast iron, sometimes made of aluminum. And it's got the piston inside. And then it's got these sliders, which are going to allow it to move in order to get it to clamp correctly. Watch.
The fluid pushes the piston, and the piston pushes the inner brake pad. Once the inner brake pad is pushed against the rotor, the fluid will push the caliper frame. The outer brake pad will now be pulled towards the other side of the disc rotor. This is how the disc brake system works on wheel side. In the next part, we will see what's the master cylinder and how it's transfer fluid to the caliper.
So how disc brakes works, part one. If you want, you can get your camera and can you see this well enough to where you can take a picture of it with your camera?
Yeah.
Okay, do that. Then I'm going to say, take a picture of that, please. Disc brake / fixed caliper brake, how it works, animation, right? So you're going to see a bunch of different animations, and probably at least one of them is going to click if you're having a hard time visualizing this. Disc brake / fixed caliper brake, how it works, animation. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to want to do this with your camera so we can get through this quick. Hydraulic and pneumatic, part one. Hydraulic means liquid. Pneumatic means air, like pneumonia. And for instance, on all the vehicles we work on, they're going to have hydraulic brakes. But when you start doing heavy equipment trucks, they're going to have air brakes. Same principles, just different applications. Yeah, that's about on the videos. Last thing I'm going to show you. Professor Julius Sumner Miller. You ever heard of that guy?
Mm-mm.
Check it.
It's a yes. Reason, the walls push in with a force which compensates for the water which is not there. And a system. Here I have such a system. A little piston right here and a big piston right there.
He's not trying to act like a freak. He actually is this way. But you know what? He's cool. He likes the way he is, right? I mean, this is like my kind of people, right? He's an interesting guy. He likes the way he is. Most people would look at him and say, you know what, dude, you're a freak. But this guy is an interesting guy. He made these videos like 60 years ago and people are still watching them. Professor Julius Sumner Miller. He's probably been dead 40 years, but you know what? If he likes himself, then
And here is a block of wood.
most people don't. And you can learn a lot from these videos, I'll tell you. He's an interesting guy, and he's come up with a bunch of interesting ways of explaining stuff. Maybe that could help you. You know, I think he's funny and cool. So that's what I would suggest on that. I go to here, and then I come back here. So that's the videos that I would like you to watch. I mean, we just don't have that luxury. And then I kind of feel like not making this drawing now because you've already seen the animation, and I don't think we're going to have time. Well, so let me just skip that. Let me just burn that page then. The more I think about it, the less time we have. But heat is the enemy. Because, couple of reasons. Number one, it speeds up all.
You want those carnitas?
I do. Chemical reactions. You ever seen the picture of the face of those truck drivers that drive around with their window down? And it's like this side of their face looks like they're 80 and this side of the face shows that they're only 40. It's because heat increases the speed of all chemical reactions. That's why, well, for instance, that's why we wash our hands in warm water. Ah, Norman, you didn't know that, but I did. See? She's like, damn, I've been here for 3 years and that's the first time I ever learned anything. Yeah.
That's true.
Right. That's why we, that's why, for instance, we boil noodles in boiling water, because that's what makes them soft. So heat speeds up all chemical reactions, right? I mean, your bread would eventually rise, but if you put it in the oven, it's going to rise a lot faster. Anyways, so my point, like spaghetti sauce, I don't know. Anyways, the point, make pizza. The point I was trying to make was it speeds up all chemical reactions, including oxidation reactions like corrosion and
Like
rust.
Yeah.
If you increase the temperature of iron and water, it will increase rust, which is, brakes get hot because of this friction thing. And we got a whole bunch of things we got to deal with when it comes to trying to get rid of this heat. It's going to increase the speed of breakdown of lubricants. Yes. So if your engine runs hotter, you're going to have to change your oil more frequently. Yes. If your engine gets hotter, your coolant's going to break down more quickly. If your battery gets hotter, your electrolyte's going to break down more quickly. So are your battery plates. Heat is the freaking enemy. And as a result, we got to worry about that. It speeds up all chemical reactions. That's one big problem we have. For instance, it's going to make all the rubber die because the two main enemies of rubber are heat and oil. Number two, turns any H2O, which is a liquid, water, when it's cold, into a gas. I'm sorry, gas, steam. Which means if we have any water in our brake fluid, it's going to turn into a gas. And when it turns into a gas, we have no more hard pedal. So heat is the big enemy. It's a management thing. Softens. Everything. In this case, we're mostly concerned with metals. They're soft, so they're not that strong, right? It's like butter. You get it hotter, it turns into a liquid. Everything liquefies. All right, so as a result, heat management is the key. That's why, when we see drilled rotors, we're trying to get all that airflow. And if you look at Corvettes and stuff like that, you're going to notice that they actually have functional brake ducts, which are continuously blowing air on the calipers and the rotors, trying to keep them cool. Because you don't want brakes to overheat. If you watch that movie Ford versus Ferrari, you saw that that was a major part of the plot. And of course, speeds, fluid, and lubrication breakdown. Which is why when you're bleeding brakes, you're always going to find out that the dirtiest, rustiest brake fluid is always right next to the brake pads because that's where it's the hottest. In fact, when you have disc brakes on the front, you have to use special wheel bearing grease so it doesn't just liquefy. Front disc wheel bearing grease. You have to use special formulation of grease, otherwise it just liquefies. Incidentally, while we're on this topic, just as an aside, you don't want to mix different types of grease because they tend to liquefy. So if you're going to add grease or something like that, you really need to clean out all the old stuff and then put in fresh, which is a drag because it's like a million times more work, but it's true. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Radcliffe, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So, I actually just scanned my car today, and it actually popped this one up, which is something that we're actually talking about.
I can't see it, but let me shut down.
It's
Let me move some stuff. Now do it again. Oh shoot.
oh, sorry.
No, it's me. I'm learning how to use Zoom. Someday I'll learn. Okay, so oh shoot. What
Yeah,
number is that?
It's B0013. It actually was one of the brake things that you were talking about.
B0013.
Yes.
And can I see the description again, please?
Yeah, it says passenger knee bolster deployment control.
Subfault. Unsafe to drive. That's all good news. That's an airbag? Knee bolster? What in the world?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
Did you look it up on the internet?
I did actually, and it said something about my brakes.
All right. Well, okay, we got 12 minutes. Let's look. You said B0013?
Yeah.
Driver frontal deployment loop stage 2. What in the world? Hey, what kind of car is that?
It's a Ford Escort, a ZX2, 2003.
2003 Escort. Did you just buy this car?
I did the beginning of the year, around February, I believe.
Oh,
So I had it for about a good minute by now.
Okay, did you go to Mitchell Pro Demand and look to see if this is a recall?
I did not.
Okay, so it says right front passenger frontal deployment loop circuit. Well, that's helpful. Right front passenger frontal deployment loop. Is this a salvage title?
No, it's not. It's only ever had one ownership, and he bought it off the lot, he said. And he was like in his 80s, so he said he couldn't drive it anymore, so he sold it to me.
Yeah, those 80-year-olds, they're crappy. So you didn't look it up on Pro Demand?
I did not.
Well, it doesn't look to be a very common issue because if it was, it would be, well, there's no Ford OBD2 codes. Well, it's not a rack and pinion.
Actually, just got my rack and pinions done, I believe, like 2 weeks ago.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I also took it to Pep Boys, and they scanned it as well, because I used my scanner, and I took it to them to see, like, if maybe the same thing would pop up, but theirs popped up as, it said variable camshaft timing solenoid malfunction.
What?
And then it said, well, 4 codes popped up, they said, and then there was a variable camshaft timing over advance.
No. Is your check engine light on?
It's not on, but it says service engine soon.
That's your check engine light.
Oh, okay. Then,
Okay,
yeah.
what kind of scan tool you got that's showing body control codes?
Mine, it's called, let me see.
Did you buy the car with the check engine light on?
No, I didn't.
Did it all of a sudden pop on?
Yeah, it just popped on the beginning of this week when I was on my way to work. I think it
All
was
right,
Monday.
folks. Follow the process. Okay, so your check engine light just came on. Does your engine run any differently?
No.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
And
no, it's still running the same.
And you said it came up with 4 codes?
Yeah.
What are the chances that all four are going to come up at the same time? Well, the check engine light is not going to come on because of your body code. So that's not it. But I don't understand why your scan tool didn't pick up your PCM codes.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll show you a picture of the ones that Pet Boy came up with. My screen will load.
Okay, P01380. Variable.
Question?
Yeah, please.
Was that rack and pinion electric or was it hydraulically assist?
Oh, I have no idea actually.
Nothing.
Yeah, it was because my mom's husband did it for me. Let me see. I have a picture of it, of the one that he put in.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Did he do it in a driveway or is he a mechanic?
I think he did it in his driveway, but he is a mechanic.
Okay, what other codes did you get?
I got. Let me see. It
What do you think, Chuck?
was.
I have a theory. What do you think?
It's
Well, that body
P1.
code, I mean, could be a break in the wire in the ABS for some reason. Could be maybe a sensor for the airbags, you know, but since it is talking about the wheel,
It is?
Come with the electrical, you know, the braking system.
It's talking about the wheel?
Well, I mean, you said that it was a front
Airbag.
wheel sensor, right?
No, I think it's an airbag, isn't it? Front bolster?
Yeah, that's what I thought at first.
Frontal deployment loop circuit. Huh. Well, I would check on ProDemand for one thing, but secondly, what I would do is I would probably erase the codes and see what comes back.
Okay.
Because he may have unplugged something to get access to the rack and pinion, and then if he turned on the ignition in the meanwhile, it would throw up a code.
I do have a
Okay.
question though. If it is anything to do with the airbags, anything to do with the Dakota recall with airbags? I know my Ford dealer made me bring the car in to replace the airbags.
Okay.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Well, I wonder if I can do this in less than 5 minutes. Let's see. Okay, you said 2003, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see. Bang this in, bang this in. We have, are you watching, folks? 2003 Ford Escort. Where's it at? Did you say Escort?
Yeah, it's an Escort.
Okay, let's go back to model. Sorry, there is no Escort for that year.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it should have been.
It's a Focus, right?
No, it says it's an Escort. It says it's a 2003 Escort ZX2.
According to this,
It's at the bottom. It's the last one, ZX2.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Automatic trans, standard trans.
It's automatic.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, you're a good man. Technical service bulletins. Let's see. Let's go back, see if it's got any recalls. Where's the recalls at? No recalls. No recalls.
Enter the code on the search.
Let's go to B0013. I know, but you know what? It's got 5 codes now, all of a sudden, starting this week. Yeah, I mean, nobody else has had this problem. That's what makes me very suspicious. You should just erase all the codes and see what comes back. That's probably what I would do, because I don't want to spend, 80 hours trying to chase down false codes.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, Chuck, what do you think about that? I mean, this has never been an issue for anyone else that used this management system, which makes me very suspicious.
Did he hooked up something wrong to get that code?
Sure. Yeah. Or bumped it, or turned on the ignition when the thing was disconnected or something like that.
What
That's
about
I would not
search on YouTube?
Say what?
YouTube. Just enter the code on YouTube and see what comes up.
Yep. Okay. B0013. Yeah, airbag, steering wheel replacement. Ah, okay. Let's see. Hummer diagnostic air. Okay. Front. How do we get to front bolster? Supplemental restraint system. That's an airbag. I think that's an airbag code, dude.
Yep.
B0014 is. So they don't have it for a Ford. So it's very suspicious to me that no one at Mitchell has ever had this code on an Escort, and no one on YouTube ever has either. So either you've got some freak car or somebody turned on the ignition at the wrong time. So
Okay.
that's what I would do. Just erase the code, do a reset, and see what comes back.
I got a question. Now that I think about it. You did mention the rack and pinion. Your dad had to separate the rack and pinion from the steering column.
From the steering column, yeah.
Okay.
Are you saying what if you didn't get it lined up? Oh, so is the steering wheel straight? I mean.
No, not really. It's like a little off, a tiny bit.
Was it before?
Yeah, it was before, but then when they did it, it's like a little. I want to say like maybe 2 centimeters off.
I don't know if does that have the steering angle alignment.
I'll bet you it does. I'll bet you it does. 2003 probably does. Yep. So my question is, why did you change the rack and pinion in the first place?
So they said that I needed, because it wasn't turning. They said I took it to a mechanic, and then they read the codes, I guess, and they said I needed my power steering pump replaced. And then he told me pretty much like he wasn't gonna work on it. So then my dad's friend was like, all right, well then I'll just do it for you. So I was like, okay, and then he went and did it for me.
Cover the most common reason for an airbag light to be on modern vehicle, and that includes, guys, Ford as well. This is a very common problem, especially with the higher mileage vehicles, guys. We'll demonstrate our Ford Focus, but it will apply pretty much to any Ford, guys. Quick introduction, we'll have more than 200 videos on every car we get in the shop, because our mission is to save you guys as much money as we can. So please subscribe to the channel, guys, and like the video. Hopefully you'll find the information helpful. Let me go ahead. I'll go ahead, start that vehicle and show you how the airbag light is on that Ford. And we're going to, guys, cover the top.
It's David Burks.
Closest your
Yes.
light to the.
Okay, what did you find, Dave?
I'm looking on YouTube, and he's working on a Ford Focus. He's doing more talking than working, so haven't got anything yet.
Oh, good. It's probably related to me.
So,
all right. Well, it is currently 7:45. Let's meet again at 8. Yeah.
Hmm.
Go to the bathroom and try to act decent. Thanks, folks. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
What is with your morals? What the hell is this very
side. See your airbag light on, and you just don't like because it's there, guys. It's poking your eyes. You know something's not good with your safety system, so you want to, guys, fix that. So what we're going to do now? Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn the car off. Okay, we turn it off. Now I'm going to go ahead, guys, and connect the scanner to the OBD port of that Ford vehicle. OBD port is where you connect your scanner. Usually it's under a cover or under the dash somewhere underneath. So go ahead, connect it, guys. Okay, and next we're going to turn the ignition on. Okay, like that. Perfect. Let me show you. Right here, we're going to go ahead and open the scanner. So that scanner, guys, works on any car, not just Ford, and it's simply amazing, guys. Okay, check out all the makes that it supports: Lamborghini, Bugatti, Audi, Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, Ford, guys. Pretty much amazing. And that thing, you can read and delete the codes from every computer in the car, guys, and see live data. That is just amazing, guys, for what you pay. So if you want to check it out, we'll have the link listed in the description of the video below, and you can see where we bought ours from. Okay, this is the VIN number of the car. You can auto detect it, and it's going to decode it, give us what vehicle we have that way, guys. Okay, that way we don't have to manually select the vehicle, which makes things even a little bit easier. Okay, we're going to click yes. Now it's going to take a little bit of time to load. Now in the top corner, you can check your voltage here. Your car battery, 11.7 volts, which is a little bit low. Our battery is a little bit low, so you either need to charge it, guys, or when you're doing diagnostics, I recommend to have it at least at 12 volts for stable operation. Sometimes you may not get good diagnostics result because of that, so always, guys, do that. Put it on a battery charger if you need to make sure that it stays at around 12 volts at least. Okay, it needs to be any second now. It's going to give us two options. Yep, control unit. Now you can see all the different computers present in that car. We are guys going to select RCM. This stands for Restraint Control Module. Select this one, and you can read the codes, guys. Okay, and I'll show you in a second what codes we have here. It's establishing communication. Should be any minute now. Connecting to the airbag module, sometimes it does take a little bit longer. So it says right side airbag deployment, passenger seat belt sensor, and lost communication with restrained occupant sensor. This, guys, is the most common reason for a forward, guys, airbag light to be on. U0154, guys. Lost communication with restrained occupant classification system. What that means? Let me just click live data to be loading while I'm explaining. It means, guys, you have a sensor in the seat that detects how heavy the person is, so it knows whether to activate or deactivate the airbag in the dash. And if that sensor is not functioning or it's disconnected, it's not going to detect the weight, guys, and as a result, the airbag light will be on. Now,
Smile. Crest has you covered.
now, and you can see, guys, the occupant classification sensor status says indeterminate. Okay, so it doesn't know how heavy the person is. So I'll show you guys what is causing that now. Every time you get a system, I'll definitely recommend to disconnect your car battery at least 1 hour before the repair. That way we minimize the possibility to injure or kill ourselves, guys. Airbag systems are super complicated, advanced, guys, and dangerous. So if you're not qualified and certified, I would not recommend to do the job yourself. Take it to a professional, guys. But in our video, guys, this is just an entertaining video. We'll show you what we're doing to fix our problem now. Okay, another reason, guys, okay, the seatbelt catch, okay, the one that detects the seatbelt if it's in or not, that's very common reason as well to activate the airbag. Now this is, guys, okay, let me show you now right here. This is the airbag, guys, the bottom of the seat where that sensor mat is located as well. Things are really cramped up there, and sometimes people will knock a cable loose. Sensor will be good, but they will knock things loose, guys, and as a result, what will happen actually? Okay, it will, guys, knock a wire loose for that sensor that you need to inspect and reconnect, because sometimes if somebody puts their feet under the seat on the back, okay, that can happen. So we had a loose wire, okay, wire connector. We reconnected it. Now we're going to see if that will fix the problem, guys. So everything's reconnected, guys. I'll turn the ignition back on. Okay, ensure that all cables are reconnected. Switch ignition on. Okay, that's because we had everything off. I will go to the occupant sensor, and it's going to say empty, guys. Check it out. It changed to empty. So let's open the door, and we'll have a passenger, guys, sit on the seat. Okay. So we're just going to sit in the seat, guys, and check out what's going to happen. From empty. Okay, give it some time. It says occupy, enable, guys. So if you have a passenger that's over a certain weight, it should say occupy, enable. So as you can see, ours, guys, is working now. And if we get out, okay, And check it out now. It should say, guys, empty in just a couple seconds. Empty. So that, guys, is the most common reason for airbag light to be on. Now, the cool thing about the problem, once you fix the problem, airbag light goes off, so it's not there anymore. But you want to, guys, delete the codes. That's why you need the scanner, so they're not present in the system. And we'll go ahead and just click delete codes now. So establishing communication again with the modules and everything. And by deleting them, guys, later if you need to scan the system or something, these codes will not be present. Otherwise, you can get them confused. And if you're trying to diagnose your system, it could be complicated, guys. So these are, you can see the codes, guys, okay, that we get stored in the system. So if I go back, I'll click erase codes, ignition of engine, ignition on engine off, yes. And codes have been successfully erased, guys. So hopefully the video will be helpful. Thank you for watching and see you guys next time. Hey guys, welcome back to Auto Repair, guys. Thank you guys for watching and subscribing to the channel, guys. If you have a follow video, guys, you guys going to cover the most common reason for an airbag light to be on modern vehicle, and that includes guys forward as well. This is a very common problem, especially with the higher.
What the hell? Oh, Chuck, I just discovered the most evil thing. Type in boo13.enginetroublecode.com. I'm screen. Oh, so you can see this, right?
Yeah, I can see the top of the header right there.
Okay. It says B0013 engine trouble code is about exhaust gas recirculation sensor B circuit high. Main reason, the reason of B0013 OBD2 engine trouble code is ambient air temperature sensor circuit low. It's like random. Wow, that is the wackest thing I've ever seen. It's just like a random word generator. Okay, well, let's try this. 3013. Driver frontal deployment loop stage 2. Airbag indicator.
Off the mic.
There we go. Yep.
Come here. Come here.
Frontal deployment loop, like he disconnected like he disconnected the front airbag sensor and didn't reconnect it.
Oops. There you go.
Although I don't know how. Yeah, enginecodes.com is usually pretty good. Of course, it gives you 5.
Can you hear me?
Options. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Frontal deployment loop, isn't that the sensor?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, Michelle, we can hear you. Yeah.
What did you do? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Damn cat.
Yep.
Anyways, I got a bunch of that synthetic brake fluid.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'll give you guys some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I bought a whole bunch of it because it was at a 99-cent store.
Oh, perfect. That's where I got my credential.
You're what?
That's where I got
You're what?
That's where I got my teaching credential.
Oh.
I think I got ripped. I think I ripped them off though. Yeah, that's what I think.
So anyways, I'm ready to go to the shop because last year I was kind of scared of stuff. Now I'm not.
Right. See,
I've been getting ready. Yeah.
takes a while.
Yeah. I was afraid to break something that I couldn't afford to fix.
No, I was afraid you were gonna break something too. That was a joke.
Yeah. No, I was though.
Mr. Roadcliffe,
Yes, sir.
one of your students, Arnold, I seen him today. He was changing out 2 front axles, CV axles.
Yeah.
Done.
In the
Still good.
driveway?
That guy's good.
Yeah, he is. He really is. Yep. And what's up with Jerry Witt? Jerry and Bill. They're busy guys. They're making money now. I think they're getting ready to retire too, you know. So it's like they're trying to get as much overtime as possible. So it's calculated after your last 3 years or something, I suspect. But it's good to be popular, you know. You get old enough pretty soon, it's like, okay, well, if there's lots of work, I'm going to take lots of work because I've been around enough times when there wasn't enough to go around. So, who knows? Who knows? Oh, that's an interesting question. Instead of looking at it this way, let's go to YouTube. Let's go to 2003 ZX2 rack and pinion. Well, whoever knows how to do this, they're not sharing. Wow. Yeah, they're not sharing. Ford rack and pinion. I wonder what year that is. There you go. Something tells me that's an old one. Oh, see, Scotty Kilmer will show you the way.
I like him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, right there.
Thank you for joining us in Kodo Auto Service. This
It's 2003.
is a rack and pinion for 2000. Searching online.
Get your transmission jack or something. The rack and pinion is going to be up here. You got 2 screws. Okay? You got to take off all your sensors. You got like 3 plugs, 3 sensors. You got 3 over here, 1 over here. So it's actually 4. This is the O2. All right. Once you take that off, this is going to be a little hassle to take off these 2. You see the main hose. The first one, you can drop in there. When you take it off, make sure that the rack and pinion you're going to replace has that little valve. If not, it's always the top first hole with the hose that comes from the drop.
Now, if you put this rack and pinion in, the steering wheel is not level, or the rack and pinion is not right in the middle of its travel, could be a problem.
The whole thing just came down with no issue. As you can see, you got all the clearance, you got all the space, everything in the world. You got to work with 1 hose, the left one, which is the main first stuff. Now, they call all the sound in, and we go like this, take it off, because
Okay, we're back at it. Ready yet? It is 8:01, so we're back at it. Ah! Oh, shoot. Yeah, see, if you leave, then you have to be brought back in.
Don't forget to record.
You know what? I never turned it off. Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, he's got all this copyrighted information. Anyways, the point I was trying to make was, I think this is way past our pay grade. Although I do see, I don't know if this Mercury Sable is the same thing, but I'll bet you it isn't because the ZX2 is kind of a high performance version. So the fact that when I look around, I don't see any service information on how to do this. And I also don't see any people making videos about it. Oh, you know what we could do is we can come here to Pro Demand and let's just go rack and pinion. Okay. Map, steering, suspension, steering gears, except rack and pinion. Basic troubleshooting. No, let's go to Service Manual 1 search. Let's try it that way. Rack and pinion.
No. Applause.
Rack and pinion assembly. Replace, adjust. Let's see, repairs, locations, diagrams, operations, real fixes. Power steering and operative, replace steering gear. This is bad. Let's see, causes and fixes, parts and labors, diagrams. That's not going to tell us anything. All right, unfortunately, I don't think that we can spend too much more time on this. Torque specifications. Well, it doesn't show anything horrifying yet. Replace. Fixes component operation, OEM testing, top repairs. Replace steering gear, that's the top repair. Real fixes. Clunky nose heard. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we can spend too much more time on this. But that's the problem, because if you take it to an underqualified technician, they're just going to run you around the rosy. Yeah, shoot. Component operation, then we're done right there. Nah, nothing. Shoot. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Let's get back at this. Like I said, what I would do is, okay, the airbag thing, I think that they disconnected a sensor and didn't reconnect it, I suspect. Because when I look at this right there, oh, shoot, sorry.
I did email you the other codes that popped up from Pep Boys.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because my code reader was the one that popped up with the weird B0013. So then I took it to Pep Boys today before the class, and they scanned it, and I sent you over a picture of their scanner.
Yeah.
Bro, Cliff, can I say something?
Yeah.
Did this happen before or after they took off the part?
This was after. This happened on Monday that it turned on.
No. But it happened after they changed the part or before?
Oh, after.
Yeah, then Cliff already told you the answer. Just reset everything and then go from there.
Okay.
Because he just said it happened after he changed the part, Cliff, so the problem is after the fact.
That's what I would think.
Okay.
Yep. And there's no fee for that because you're in class. I charge, hey, when I fix cars, I charge top dollar. Oh, I'm not fixing nobody's car.
Yeah, see how you are?
Sometimes.
Okay, so let's see.
Unless it's friends and family.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so you only got 2 codes? 2 engine codes?
Yeah, those are the ones from Pep Boys.
Well, that would turn your check engine light on, that's for sure. I don't know, dude. I mean, I hate to say it, it'd be much easier if we were, in the shop and I could actually touch the thing, but.
Yeah.
kind of way past what we're supposed to be doing in this class. So let me get back to where we go. Unless you want to talk to your good friend Chuck. Likes to fix it when he's not. Yeah. You could put a roof on Chuck's house and he'll fix your car for you.
Hey, bro, he could also disconnect the battery, remember, and then connect it back on. Go from there.
Yeah. Although that's a kind of a bougie way of doing it. So I would rather reset it with a code reader or scan tool. Or really,
Okay.
Ryan, you need to get that Kizzy thing for $60. Just bite the bullet, call it an early Christmas present or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why you have the last say, Rocliffe.
See? No, that's because I paid for the microphone. All right. So, heat is the enemy, folks. And that's what we got to watch out for. So we've got to just be aware of what heat is going to do in terms of our brake system. All right. So DOT stands for Department.
Transportation.
Yep. Of Transportation. And they are the ones that set standards for tires and also for fluids, brake fluids. That's why you're going to notice every tire has a DOT number on it. And the reason we worry about this is because we have different types of brake fluid. Got .2, you're never going to see that anymore. So why don't we just start with .3, .4, you're never going to see that. Well, you might, and then .5. .3 was for disc and drum combination. And you can use it if you just have all drums. But that's alcohol based, which means it's going to attract water, which is what's going to cause all your problems. And this is what causes your dark brown brake fluid on your older cars. .4 was four-wheel disc. You don't usually see that because people were continuously putting the wrong fluid in their cars. And then .5 was pure synthetic. And that's what they put in, the expensive Porsche, 911s and stuff like that. This tended to be pink. But new .3, which is probably 99% of all the brake fluid they make, is light gold and clear. So what's going to happen is when you open up your hood and you look at your master brake cylinder, you're going to see how freaking old and dirty your brake fluid is. Gold is dark brown. Because that's rust. Now, change every 5 years. Because it can absorb up to 20% of its volume in water every year. So I don't know what the change schedule is on the synthetic stuff, but I just know it's not alcohol based, so it's not going to attract water the way the old stuff does. Also, will peel paint. I had a student at Citrus College. She was working at a Jaguar dealership, and she was doing something with the brakes, bleeding them or something like that. And she actually got brake fluid on a brand new Jaguar fender, and they had to replace the whole fender. It was almost $1,000. Although it seems like it would be a lot more than that. I don't know, but whatever the case. Well, this was 20 years ago too. Anyways, so this stuff will peel paint. So don't ever even think about getting this on anything that matters. We got to be really careful about brake fluid management because it's like acid. It will eat through stuff like crazy. Now, since it's alcohol based, you can pour it down the drain legally and safely. because it's just like, you know, pouring a beer down the drain, basically. That's true too. Not like, you know, not like antifreeze. Antifreeze you cannot pour down the drain, but brake fluid you can. So that's the preferred method of disposal too.
I have another question, Rockliffe.
Yeah.
Okay, remember on my '84 Nissan, when you took the brake line off with your vice grips to remove strip screws or
Yeah.
bolts?
I
Where do
don't
I buy
remember
those?
that.
I went to Sears, yeah, over there in Maxing Waters. I
Okay.
went to Sears and they didn't have them anymore. Where can I get them now? You know, it's a 3-piece set.
Well, you don't have to buy all three, but it's a good idea. Amazon, right?
I'm not sure. I only looked on eBay and they didn't have them.
No, wait.
Let me look.
Those will be great because he has a set of 3, and I had an '84 Nissan that Rudy took off one of the lines that the bolt or the nut was stripped, and with his pliers we were able to take it off.
Okay, let's see. Vice grip. Strip.
Irwin. It's the Irwin brand.
Right, huh?
Yeah, you have a 3 set that I need those for my. Yeah, for my
right here. Yeah, it's right here, bud.
Oh, for sure.
Yep, that's the one. And they have a 4-inch, a 10-inch, and a 7-inch.
Yup, I recommend those, everybody. Ooh, that's a miracle.
Yeah. When you need them, you need them.
Remember our clip over there at Maxine Waters?
I don't remember anything. No, I've tried to drink that dour memory away. Yeah. So that's it right there. And that's what the jaws look like, in case you're wondering.
For sure. And, you know, for my dirt bike, because my drain plug messed up.
For instance, yeah. But you got to get, I mean, there's 3 different sizes. So for small stuff and big stuff, you got to have different sizes. Otherwise.
I'm going to buy the 3-pack.
Yep.
I got the money.
That'll save you every once in a while. Incidentally, I'm supposed to talk to you about this too. Workforce development is the people that fund our programs. And what they're going to do is they're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see how needy you are.
Yeah, I'm already.
Yeah. Now, this is absolutely confidential, and it doesn't matter other than the fact that this is how we get our funding. So this is not the time to claim that you make $300,000 and you live by yourself. If you're going to make any type of error, it would be way better to claim that you made $10,000 and you have a family of 12. Because this is how we get our funding, folks. And I'm not suggesting that you lie. I'm just saying don't try to brag and think that you're impressing anybody by talking about your Lamborghinis and stuff like that if you don't have one, because that just means we get less money.
You know what I did, Rockliffe?
What?
I put 3 with my 2 kids, and I made 21,000 because that was like the lowest option it had.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm of course I'm not encouraging you to lie, because when you encourage people to lie, you're encouraging them to lie to you. I'm just saying that you would be better off going lower than higher, because the poorer the students are, the more money we're going to get to teach you.
And for information, that email was from CalWorks.
Yeah, CalWorks. Okay, there you go. It used to come from Perkins. So it's, you know, in LA Unified, we did it different, right? We had a form to fill out and stuff. Anyway, so please fill out those forms, because we get paid for every form. I don't know how much, but it's a lot. So we get paid for every form that gets filled out. So please don't neglect that. And it's absolutely confidential and nobody cares. Nobody's going to be cross-referencing this against your tax refund or whatever. So yeah, please fill out those forms. It's a big deal in terms of us getting paid. And, you know, if we get paid, then I get paid. And, you know, there's nothing more important than that in the whole world, really. All right, so change it every 5 years unless it's synthetic. And I don't know what the change interval is on that, but I'm sure it's not every 5 years. And when I say change, am I talking about emptying out completely? You know, I'm just, you know, it's just, if you can get 90% of it out and replace with good new stuff, I think you'll be covered over 20 or 30 years, whatever. Yeah, it's sent by email. Okay, so let's talk about some parts. when you open up your hood on the driver's side, usually by the brake, well, in front of the brake pedal, I should say, you're going to see a big old can that looks like this. That's going to be tied to the firewall, which is, you know, where your feet are. And then it's going to usually have something that looks like this. This is the power booster. Hey, check, your fax machine is stuck. Your 52K modem is stuck. Oh,
56K.
excuse me. Hey! Hi, folks. There we go. Maybe Rudy will help us. This is a side view. And then you're going to have this thing right there. And then you're going to have a cap that goes on top of it. Hi, people. Okay, so this is the power booster. This is what gives you power brakes. So, should have a big vacuum line attached to it on most cars. What this thing right here does, oh, sorry, it's got this thing right there, and then it's going to have a nut right there. I don't think I've ever made this drawing before, but I might have. Yeah, that's pretty good. This thing right here is going to be called the brake master cylinder. So write down everything I write down, draw everything I draw. That's going to be the key to your happiness. So that's the brake master cylinder, and what it does is controls the brakes at all the wheels. That's why they call it the master. Now, this thing right there is called the reservoir. And that's where we keep the brake fluid. And what's it going to say on the side? Full and, no, min and max. And then it's going to come in like that, whatever. Something like that. Now, this is going to come this way. Go somewhere. And then this is going to come this way. Going somewhere. That's going to go that way, that way, that way. There we go. That's going to be a brake line.
Good job.
See? Did my best. And then usually this is going to go into the
ABS unit.
ABS. Anti-lock brake system unit. There we go. Usually on any modern car. All right. So this is going to be in front of where the driver sits usually. You're going to see this big can that's going to be about probably 10 inches in diameter and about 3 inches deep. It's going to have a big rubber vacuum hose goes to it usually. And then this is usually going to be made of aluminum. It's going to be about, I don't know, 1.5 inches in diameter. and it's going to have a clear plastic reservoir. It's not going to be clear, but it's going to be cloudy, mildly opaque, a little bit opaque, but you can see through it because you have to be able to see the fluid level through it. And then it's going to have a cap on it. Now, it could have a screw-on cap, or it could have one of these snap-on caps, depending on what year you're talking about.
Or clip-on Suburbans.
Yeah. Whatever the cap is, you need to make sure that that's on tight and correct, because, like I said, .3 brake fluid is hydroscopic, and it means that it attracts water. So if this isn't sealed, and the seal has to be in good shape, because if this isn't sealed correctly, it's going to suck moisture out of the air, and it will ruin your brake fluid for you. Now, on this cap or on the screw-on cap, either way, it's going to say what type of brake fluid you're supposed to use. Usually, like I said, it's going to be .3, but it's going to tell you what type of brake fluid to use. Don't use the wrong type, because brakes are important. What does the analog brake system do? The analog brake system is there to make it so if any of your tires lock up and you thus lose traction, that it will release the brakes and thus stop you from skidding and restore you to some level of control of your vehicle. It's a computerized system, and we'll talk about it later, but for right now, that's pretty much what you need to know. And then the brake fluid can go to whatever kind of valving you need, whether it's a combination valve or a proportioning valve or a metering valve. But eventually it's going to come out. Well, I'm going to go this way, I think.
Huh? Hi, Michelle. I see you got back home safe.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? What's up with you, Rudy?
Just trying to pack up, brother.
Really? It's really going to happen?
No, trying to.
Well, this is the drawing that I started last time, so in case you're wondering what the hell I'm doing. This red part is the rotor. The black things are the brake pads. Let me see. And the blue thing that's shaped like a C is
calipers.
The caliper. And right on top of the caliper, there's going to be this valve.
Bleed screw.
Called the bleeder screw or the bleeder valve. And then I'm just going to put an arrow there, and I'm going to say 1 at each wheel.
Especially if it's got 4-wheel disc.
Yeah, so we're just going to assume it's got 4-wheel disc. Hey, Rudy, 2003 ZX2. Changed the rack and pinion on it, and now it's got a B0013 frontal airbag deployment loop. Something tells me something just didn't get connected, or if it might have got knocked off or something like that.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Because usually that would not cause an issue with changing the rack. Unless it's that stupid one that has the airbag sensor in the rack.
That's the one. You hit it.
Because there is one of those models, I don't remember exactly what year, but one of them had a airbag sensor in the rack and pinion itself.
Sounds like that's the one.
And what it would do is, in the case of an airbag deployment, it would basically lock the rack and pinion in place.
Is that the symptom you were having though, right? The steering wouldn't work.
No. From when it first happened, what made me change my rack and pinions was I went to go make a left turn and my steering was really stiff. So then I went and I took it into a mechanic out here in Rancho Cucamonga, and they're called All Star Mechanics. And he tested it, and he said that he tested my power steering pressure, and he said that it was low. And then he said I needed to change out my power steering pump, which is why my steering was really stiff. But he said that if
Okay,
that didn't work, then it could
that
have been.
sounds about right.
Was it stiff in
Then
both
he,
directions?
yeah, super stiff in both directions.
Yeah, so it was
And
probably your
then
pump, not
he
the rack.
said, so when he said that if I changed out my power steering pump and if it still had that issue, then it was going to be my rack and my pinion. So when we changed out my power steering pump, it was the same thing. Same thing happened.
Unbelievable.
So and then they ended up changing out. They ended up changing out my rack and pinions.
Okay, what you should do in the future is go to Quality Auto Service on Falcon in Pomona or Connie and Dick's
Okay.
in Claremont.
Let me.
Quit going to these freaking people that can't tell the
Okay.
difference between a power steering problem and a rack problem. That just makes me nervous. I mean, if we're professionals, we got to be able to change. We got to be able to discern between the two, right? Discernment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about discernment a lot lately.
And
Okay.
again, what I would check is to make sure that there's no connectors that were just barely plugged in.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not that hard to get under the car as long as you have a set of ramps to get under there. Just make sure all the little connectors are plugged in properly.
Okay.
Oh, nightmarish. Okay, I'll give you $100 for the car, and then you won't have this problem.
That's why the first mechanic didn't want to work on it, because he already knew that problem would exist.
Wouldn't surprise me. Okay, so
Yeah,
here
he
we go.
told me I was better off selling it.
Really?
How much you want for it?
Yeah.
Wow.
The first guy. Yeah.
That's weird. Wow, really? Why? How many miles it got?
Yeah.
How many miles it got?
Give me 1 second. I'll look at my slip right now.
Well, I mean, is it like 300,000 or is it like 60?
I believe it's a little more.
Than
I'm
300,000?
not too sure actually. Yeah, it's way more.
Well, it's probably said it for a reason. Anyway, we move on. So
Yeah.
here's the thing. You got to make sure you use the right fluid. And here's something I need to tell you about. This says minimum, that says maximum. The fluid level is supposed to be between these two lines. However, if you fill this to the correct amount, when the brake pads are already worn out, when you replace the brake pads, it's going to have way too much brake fluid in. So what I like to do is I like to go in there and I like to change out the pads, get the linings in good thickness, and then set my fluid level. That way, as the pads wear, the fluid level is going to come down and it's going to alert me to the fact that my brake linings are wearing. Kind of a neat trick. What a lot of people are going to do is they're always going to fill this up to the max line, even if the pads are worn out. But if you do that, when you push the pistons back in the calipers, it's just going to puke brake fluid all over everything. And I'm going to have my beautiful new floors quack.
Which is very bad.
Yeah, because it gets all over, and that's bad because it, like I said, it chews up paint really good. So my theory is wait until you've got the pads changed and that you've got good meat on the pads before you start coming up with your final fluid levels on that. And I don't top off the fluids on the brake fluid. I set it when the pads are new and then I forget it, and you know, it gives me a useful indicator of how worn out the pads are. So you got that? Now, let us talk about something really important. Like finally. Okay, I made this drawing like 4 times today, and hopefully this will be the best one of all. This comes like this, and then it goes like that. It goes like this. Down here like this. This is not the best one of all. But my heart was in the right place. There you go. Yeah. So Rudy, it looks like we might be coming back like first week of November is my prediction.
Woohoo!
Yep. All right, that right there is brake pad.
It's easy for me to get to class. It's hard for me to get on these meetings.
Yeah, I'm not. You freaking sick of this? I realized I've done nothing but talk to the camera for 6 months. I was in church last night, and the pastor's like, "Oh yeah, I've had to make all my lessons on the camera, and it's been terrible. I've had to spend 2 hours a week talking to a camera with nobody there." I'm like, "Yeah, welcome to my world, buddy. I've served my time in
Yours
hell."
is only 2 hours a week. Mine's 6 hours a day.
Like 43 hours a week for me. So, anyways, this is a brake pad. Did you know that there's a song named Rockliffe now? Michelle, you here? Oh, just not. Okay, so anyway, that's a brake pad.
Just got her mic on mute.
Backing plate. Yeah, she is here. Okay, Michelle Norman. Go to YouTube, look up a song called Rockliffe by Brandon Hart. I just discovered it. It just came out. It's about one of my cousins, of course. There ain't that many Rocliffes. Anyways, this right here is the friction material.
Say hi.
Or
say hi.
Brake lining. And that's the actual part that rubs against the rotor to make it slow down and stop. The backing plate is made of steel because we need it to be strong. And there are 3 main types of, didn't we already do this? Sounds familiar, because I remember Rudy disagreeing with me. Did we already do this?
I don't think.
I haven't seen
I don't think this semester we did last one.
Really? Okay, 3 major types of linings. Organic, semi-metallic, and ceramic. Yeah, you might be right.
I think we did a sidebar on it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then why don't you teach it then? We'll have a recitation. You know, okay, back when I was your age, this is how we used to do school. The teacher would say, "Okay, Mr. Burks, would you like to explain to us what an organic brake pad material is?" You know, Chuck remembers. Yeah. This is back in the old days, this is how they used to run school. They'd say, "All right, Mr. Reyna, would you like to explain to us how a semi-metallic pad is made?" And you'd be like, either you'd be sweating or you'd be making it. And those of us that made it gained so much confidence from this method that we went and we accomplished great things because it gave us this big confidence boost. Now it's considered child abuse to ask a student a question by their direct name. So as a result, we don't build that confidence in school. And as a result, you know, it's like.
They're bad speakers.
Yeah, I mean, well, because it used to be possible to be an intellectual bully, which is to say, when I knew the answer, I would just come out and just freaking roast. It's like, oh yeah, would you like to hear more information about this thing that you asked that nobody else in class knows anything about? But that was considered to be abusive for the students that didn't study or didn't learn, or maybe they were dumb or something. I don't know, whatever the case was. So of course now they're going back to it. It's like every 20 years the pendulum goes like this, and now everything that was bad teaching 20 years ago is now state of the art. It's crazy. I work in crazy town. All right, organic. That means it's made of moose licks. That was a joke, but it's made. Yeah,
Not really.
yeah, not really. Okay, organic means it's made of tree bark. This is the friction material, folks, right? We're trying to get good brake performance, which means we're trying to deal with noise. We're trying to deal with performance.
And heat.
Well, yeah, but we just went through like an hour of heat and durability. So here's the problem with organic materials. Back in the old days, we used to use asbestos. Back when we used to land people on the moon, right, without a computer, we used to use asbestos because it's a flame retardant material. But then we found out that asbestos caused cancer, so we just bought all our brake stuff from Canada where they didn't have that law. That's actually true. Because without asbestos, it was just crap. So organic brake linings are made of tree bark, basically. And the problem is they make a lot of noise, they don't perform very well, and they only last a couple of months. Now, what's better is some metallic linings, because what we do is we take powdered metal, we grind up little bits of soft metal like bronze, and then we glue it all up into a pie, and we stick it on the back of a backing plate, and we call those semi-metallic because they've got little bits of metal in it. As a result, the performance is way better. And it gives you less noise, better performance, better durability. But the problem is they will always squeak when cold. Now, what does it take to warm up a brake pad? Well, step on the brakes a couple of times, it'll warm it up. So, if you have brakes that squeak the first couple of times you use them in the morning, and then the noise goes away, you probably got semi-metallic linings. There's nothing you can do about it. You might as well get used to it. If, however, they squeak in a 20-minute trip, there's no way that they're not warmed up already. So it's being caused by something else. All right. So semi-metallic used to be the state of the art for the longest time. Now what's become very popular is these ceramic brake pads. So last time I said this, I got an argument from my good friend Rudy, but I love him still.
Don't run ceramics on solid rotor.
Don't use ceramics on solid rotors. What do we think about that, Chuck? Or do we?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different trains of thoughts. Some people say that the ceramic leaves a coating on the rotor and thus decrease the, the stopping of the rotor. I've never had that problem.
Me neither. Of course, when I put them in, I put the friction material towards the rotor, so that helps a lot.
Ha, ha, ha.
Actually, there's a true story about that because I went to a shop to get the custom seat for my Z06, and it turned out they had hired one of my real idiot ex-students. And they said, how did this guy do in class? I said, because I didn't want to say this guy was an idiot and he never did any work. Anyway, it turns out that when he was doing a brake job, he actually put the backing plates against the rotors instead of the friction material. They were less than impressed by that because it was a BMW shop. Well, that's what you get for hiring substandard employees. Anyways, so my point was ceramic. Ceramic is the belle of the ball. Everybody loves the ceramic now. They do have a suggested break-in period, so you might want to watch YouTube and see what you can discern from that. That's my new word for the evening. I get paid $1 every time I use it. So here's the thing. We have a connection at
This
CarQuest.
thing.
We have a connection at CarQuest. Here it comes.
How do you, well, ask it this way, do you think I should replace my rotors and calipers when I would change my brakes? It has about 90,000. I never changed them. Now they're beginning
Not
to
your
squeak.
calipers.
Okay, according to me, I don't replace anything unless I have to. So what I think you should do is I think you should wait until class opens. Can you wait that long? Because that's really what makes it really easy to judge whether you should get rid of this, keep that, fix this. You know,
Okay.
I got to tell you, most of the professional mechanics I know, they don't even cut rotors anymore. Now they just replace them because, as far as, I mean, you saw a shop labor rate was $135 an hour. I mean, it pays 15 minutes to cut a rotor, and you know, you can get a new rotor for less than that. And then you have to worry about, well, is it going to cut on the first cut, or is it going to, you know, is it going to get too thin? I mean, so most of the places I know just put on new rotors. But, you know, I don't know, you know, your financial situation and stuff like that. Replacing calipers, I'm not going to replace calipers unless they're bad. Because, you know, that's an endless pit, right? Because you can replace stuff, you know, just for general principles, and it's not going to get you any further down the road. And then when it's time to replace something that actually needs to be replaced, you're not going to have the money because you replaced a bunch of calipers that don't need replacing.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do we do calipers? We're going to check to see if they leak, right? Yes, Chuck. What up?
What type of car is it? That kind of dictates a lot whether you're gonna need brake sensors also.
F-250.
What year?
05.
Nah, it should be fine. How many miles?
89.
Oh, no way. They're hardly broken in. Yeah, I don't like to replace stuff unless I have to, just because, you know, I've been burned too many times by, you know, replacing stuff I didn't have to, and then all of a sudden I get this, you know, major thing I got to deal with, and now I don't have the money because I, you know, spend it needlessly.
May I ask one more
Or
question?
you end up
Yeah.
creating an issue that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
My
What, Doug?
question is about the rotors visually. Can you see them through the wheel?
Yes.
Do they got any waves on them?
Yes.
The wavy rotors. Okay. Just
What
asking.
do you mean waves?
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes you can see a rotor and you look at it and you can see, you know, it's wavy. You can actually, you know, put your finger across it when it's cold.
You can see
You like grooves in it, is what you
Right,
mean.
wavy. Yeah. I mean, not so bad that,
I thought you were talking about this way.
you know, it's not metal to metal, but you will see actual waves on the rotor from, you know, heat and wear.
And you're not happy about that?
No, I'm just asking if that rotor
No,
was wavy,
glazing
you know,
is bad.
it's time to replace the rotor, or are you going to cut them, you know, turn them, one of the two.
I knew Rudy was going to say, oh, no, I don't like that at all. I got to tell you, I mean, I've had lots of cars where I never cut the rotors in 150,000 miles, so I just put new pads on it. It didn't bother me. It's not professional, and Chuck doesn't like it, and Rudy doesn't like it, but I liked it. So,
we're talking cost, you know, cost,
yeah.
and you know, what you think, what's your tolerance of how good you want it to be.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I also count my life toward my brakes.
Well, you like to spend money, though. I don't.
Hey, road clip. I learned in high school that as long as it's thicker than a quarter that you'll be fine.
No.
I just like being safe because I drive so fast.
I know, but the more you cut the rotors, the thinner they get, and then you have to cut both rotors the same thickness. And the thinner they get, that means the less heat they're able to absorb and get rid of. So it's, you know, it's a double-edged sword on that. Now
That's why I replace mine every fourth brake job.
Man, that's a heavy foot.
Yeah, seriously, huh? So Anyway,
Yes.
my point is, I don't think I've done 4 brake jobs in 200,000 miles, but you know, but then again, I drive a sports car. So the point I was trying to make was, you guys get my red Corvette back together yet? That's what I'm excited about. So what I wanted to say, Dave, is that
Have we been able to get in the garage to put it back together yet?
no, supposedly they just put in the epoxy floor, so we are going to have the opportunity to completely reorganize it the way we want it, though. That I think is going to be interesting.
Yay!
Yeah. So, the point I was trying to make was, Dave, we can cut those rotors at school when we get back in, or you can just take them down to AutoZone and they can cut them for $7 if that matters to you.
If you have a second vehicle too.
Then Rudy will admire you. So you know what that's worth. Okay, so ceramic's the best stuff. Look, you're probably going to pay $20 a set for these, probably $30 a set for these, and $40 a set for that, or maybe 35 and 45, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just get the good stuff. Get the good stuff, because you will not be sad, and it'll make your brake jobs last a long time. Now, this is especially true if you're doing the work for someone else, because if you use cheap materials for someone else, when it needs to be redone in 6 months, they're going to blame you. They're going to look around and say, well, everyone else doesn't need their brakes done after 6 months. It's your fault for not talking me out of it. That's human nature. So as far as brake materials go, that's what I would do. CarQuest, use the best brake materials you can, because like I said, the expensive part of a brake job is not the parts, it's the labor. Okay, so that's going to give you the best of all of this world here.
So
well,
when you take it to a, like, say for instance, you take your brakes to go get done, do they offer you these 3?
It depends. It depends.
Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't.
Yeah.
So they could be putting in anything, is what you're saying.
The problem is, Gabe, that there's such a huge variation in the professionalism of the shops. I mean, there's guys that have never gone to school, have been trained by grandpa fixing his tractor, that couldn't name the parts if you asked them. This is true. And then you've got Connie and Dick's that's going to put out a 16-page report, including movies and pictures, and meter readings. So it's everywhere in between. And there's people that are qualified to do diagnostics, and there's people that are not. Now, people ask why I go to Connie and Dick's and why I go to Quality Auto. The reason is because these guys are sharp enough on diagnostics that I'm not going to lose money by them misdiagnosing something. See, according to me, if you can't tell the difference between a bad power steering pump and a bad rack and pinion, you need to go to school, right? I don't think, to me, that's unacceptable. Look, if I had a mechanic working for me, if I had a shop and I had a mechanic and he couldn't tell the difference between a power steering pump and a freaking rack and pinion, I would be kind of sad. And he would probably be kind of unemployed. Is that fair? I think it is.
I mean, yes, it is, but he didn't
Sure. Surely we're not supposed to replace a $600 power steering pump on a guess, right?
Yeah.
So, Quality Auto Service on Falcon and Pomona, Connie and Dick's in Claremont, and you will find that these probably charge more per hour than most shops, but their diagnostics is freaking miles above everybody else, and you probably end up saving money. And if you do have a problem, they're going to stand behind their work, and they're not going to quit returning your phone calls and hold your car for 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, these are righteous. I mean, if we expect the righteous to prosper, then we have to give business to the righteous. You know, lo barato sale caro, right?
That's true. That is so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Well, I asked because this is definitely one of the main things that I've always wanted to learn is how to do brakes. But, I'm asking because, when you take somebody else, so I would imagine you would want to specifically say, I want ceramic brake pads.
Yeah.
That's what you would want to, like, for example, on my Ford Flex, Ford Flexes don't come with ceramic pads factory. They come with semi-metallics. Whenever I go in to have my brakes done, I tell everybody I'm running drilled and slotted rotors and I want ceramic pads. And I want the best pads I can get because I have a heavy foot.
One of the reasons that happens is because, remember, a lot of these places are competing on price. So when just Joe Schmo customer comes in who's never gone to school, never studied any of this, they're going to come in and they're going to say, oh, look, brake jobs for $99, both wheels. Well, how are you going to do brake jobs for, $99 both wheels if you're cutting both rotors and using ceramic pads? That ain't going to happen. So they're competing on price. So when you talk to the shop owner, he doesn't know whether you are oriented towards maximum performance durability or whether you're looking for the low price. So if they're a good shop, they'll give you your options. But most of these shops are just going to guess based on, how you look and, what your shoes look like, really.
And what you're driving.
And what you're driving, sure. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So as much as they could suck out of you.
Well, lots of places. But, okay, now, like I said before, remember, I told you this last week. There's a lot of shops around here that figure they're only going to see you once. So they need to screw you as hard as they can the one time they're going to see you because you're never going to come back. There's other places like Quality Auto and Connie and Dick's. They're looking to build a customer base for life. So you go there, you're going to be well taken care of, and they're expecting that you're going to come back. In fact, their whole raison d'etre is to build, long-term customers because they want you as a customer and they also want your kids as a customer and they want all your friends as a customer. Incidentally, I saw something that I wanted to show you because I'm running out of time. But I remembered it, and I just remembered it, and I was tripping on it. So let me show you something that I think that you're going to really love. Watch. Connie and Dix.com, I think is what it is. I saw something which was amazing to me. Is that it?
Many D's.
Okay, you ready for this? That's Scott Brown right there. Check this out. Are you ready for this? Chuck Reyna?
Ready.
Look, we support local restaurants. If you spend $100 at a local restaurant, they'll give you a $50 discount at Connie and Dick's. What up? What up? Now that's, let's go to Claremont, right? Let's go to Claremont and eat some food. Norm's, did you know that the Norm's in Claremont on Indian Hill provides 50% of Claremont's business revenue? Anyway, my point was, so take out the homies, right? Because look, you got to spend $100. I mean, there's a couple of good restaurants in Claremont, but if you spend $100, you get a $50 discount. That's like they're giving you $50 in your hand to go eat in Claremont. I couldn't believe it. Through the end of 2020. Maybe they don't want me telling you about this, but that's a smoking deal. So if they do if they do a brake job for you, they're going to give you a $50 discount on your brake job, and it'll be done by the best shop in San Gabriel Valley, or at least the best one I'm aware of. Maybe in Southern California. You don't know. Check it. I mean, I saw this and I was tripping on it. I was like, damn, that's really good. You just got to get a bunch of fat friends and take them to freaking El Ranchero or something. I don't know. Buca de Beppo. It's not hard to spend.
Let's go. What day?
Let's go. Vamos. Yep. So I got to tell you, Connie and Dick's, he used to build Corvettes for freaking Bondurant. And if Bondurant doesn't know who Corvettes, who does, So Scott Brown is King Medicine right there. ConnieandDix.com. Hardcore. That's where I got this shopware receipt, which is just, the invoice, which is, you're getting 16-page invoice from Connie and Dick's. I mean, that's amazing because it's so full of all this information, pictures and movies and stuff. That's crazy. It's crazy good. And I think that's where the industry is going. So, right? Stick with the winners. anyway, like I said, okay, so while I'm here, so I'm going to hit Connie and Dix and hit favorites. And then I'm going to go to diag.net. I know Chuck's a member. He's a real man. I know freaking Rudy's here all the time, or at least he should be, because what happens is these are the hardest core diagnostic technicians in the whole freaking country, and this is where they come to hang out, right? This is like going to that jazz club, that after hours jazz club that, you know, Ornette Coleman and freaking Miles Davis go to after their gigs, right? This is like the secret place where all the best hang out. So you're going to see a bunch of trippy stuff that you're not going to see anywhere else, because most people aren't even worth asking these questions that they're answering.
This is, you have to subscribe to this?
Yeah, but it's free.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Join Diagnostic Network today. And it has bounties. So like if you can figure out the answer to this question, they'll actually reward you. So there's a bunch of cool things going on in this industry. One of the cool things going on in this industry is that you're actually deciding to not be a victim of it anymore and to start become a participant in it. So I applaud you and I salute you in that decision. It's one of the best decisions you ever make, because not only do we have to understand cars better and trucks, but we also need to understand the mechanical world better, because this is a mechanical world and we need to understand it better. And the same things that we understand here, the same things we're learning here can apply to our homes, can apply to, you know, our lawnmowers, can apply to, you know, any number of things, you know, boats. So I would like to do some electrical training, because I think once we get back in the shop, people are going to be very shop happy and they're not going to want to sit down and do, you know, learning anymore. But I think we did a bunch of electrical last semester, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we should focus on the fluid levels. I'm open to suggestions based on, you know, what you missed, because one of the problems is we got a whole bunch of new students this year, and we got a bunch of returning students. So I don't want to bore the old ones with the new stuff or go past the new ones. So, like I said, one of the biggest problems we have right now is that we don't have a shop and a classroom. So what used to happen was I used to take the students that hadn't had this material and put them in the classroom, and then I'd take the students that had the material and put them in the shop. So everybody got what was most appropriate to them.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you touched upon electrical. I really would like to get to know the power probe tool and do basic troubleshooting on like a motor relay to make the window go up and down.
Good.
You know, and relays themselves, the window switch, that type thing. Real practical, down to earth type of thing.
I'd love to teach you.
I'm going to buy a power probe myself. I don't know whether I'm going to get the 3 or the 4, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what, Chuck? I should find my 3 and I should sell you my 3 and get myself a 4.
If it's a good price, I'm ready, because I have a job coming up for a relative that I have to change the windshield. I mean, the door window regulator, or the glass itself. It's been sitting dead for a long time, so I have to get a battery, and I need to hit that regulator to bring the window down so I can replace it.
God. A standard drill battery will operate that window regulator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what you need to do is take 2 female connectors, get yourself a piece of wire. I use about, what is it that I use? I think it's like 16 gauge wire. And I make me it's about a foot or 2 long for positive and negative. And I use the female connectors so that it plugs into the battery.
Oh, wow.
And then them to touch the motor around. So that way you could figure out the polarity on the motor and move it.
Right, right.
Okay.
I've done that countless times when I was in mobile electronics. And if you need help, don't hesitate to call me. You have my number, right?
Yeah, I got it. I have it, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Rudy is
I
the
can
mobile electronics dude. Incidentally,
run over
folks,
and help if I'm not
incidentally,
super
folks,
busy trying to move.
Rudy is the mobile electronics guy. So if you want to do security systems, TVs, stereos, backup cameras. Oh, incidentally, Rudy, where are we at on dash cams?
I honestly have not been able to look into it. I've been super busy with trying to move and
All right.
organize stuff, so
So
I'll
Chuck,
try to get into it tomorrow.
okay, Chuck, I'll look and see if I can find my 3. If I can find my 3, I hope it's not at school. If I can find my 3, that's what I like to do. I like to get the latest model of tool by just getting rid of my older model. So yeah, let's do that. See, because 3 is good enough for most of the stuff you want to do, and 4 has a couple of new features, but I didn't find it like a stunning breakthrough.
Right.
Now they do make the hook, which is a
Right.
trick,
I looked into that too.
but that's like way more expensive, and it's also a lot bigger. It's
Yeah.
not as easy to use as the 3. Okay, were you looking at the 3 with like the big deluxe case, or just the base?
Well, they have several versions of the 3 now. There's a new one that just came out. I can't remember the name of it, but it gives you the option to even test injectors.
Oh, you can always do that with the 3.
There's a new one, and the 4. I think the 4 can test fuel injectors also.
Yeah, but the 4 reads current. That's the big deal about the 4.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look. And I still owe you all your freaking tools, your torque wrench and your other thing. I know, but okay, so Saturday they called me up. One of my ex-students from 2 years ago ended up dying on Arrow Highway. So I've been backed up with that, surrounded by young people that don't understand. For some reason, Montclair High School has got like premature death every year. These young men are dying because I don't think they take it seriously or something. I don't know what it is, but it's weird to see. So anyways, that's my theory about that. Oh, are you out by Claro's? I could go for some meatballs and lasagna. Yeah, let me call you.
Jerry and his, I would stick to a fluke meter.
Well, yeah, fluke voltmeters are nice, but remember the good thing about the Power Probe 3 is that it allows you to put 12 volts to something very easily, right? So you're not running jumper wires, because I hear what you're saying about using the battery, but A, that's not got a circuit breaker in it, which makes it kind of dangerous. Plus, it's really inconvenient. Whereas the Power Probe, you can just, like on a row of fuses, you can go pop, 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 pop. And it actually, it's faster to use than a voltmeter, and also much more convenient. And it allows you to push either ground or battery plus, which is big medicine. Allows you to easily reverse the direction of a motor. Now, incidentally, I got to tell you, Chuck, if you look at the price of window regulators on eBay, they're ridiculously cheap, like 50 bucks. For a Corvette, they're like 50 bucks a window. I was like, okay, so why would I use a used one? Why would I spend too much time doing troubleshooting on this? Now, I got to tell you, Rudy has the fat hookup when it comes to used stuff in terms of window motors and stuff like that. Rudy, do you still have that hookup? Where's Rudy gone? Yeah, Rudy might be gone, but unfortunately his hookup is East LA, so I went to his hookup in East LA, and I'm just walking around because it was kind of hot outside, and I walk into this room, and there's this freaking shrine to to Santa Muerte. It's got to be like 20 feet tall. I'm like, oh, hello.
Are you serious?
Hello. Yeah. I was tripping on that. Oh, here's Rudy. Yeah, I was tripping on that hard. I was like backing out of the room, like, never mind.
Sorry, my phone. But yes, I still have hookup for used parts.
Yeah, but that's in East LA, so.
But I can still get them and meet y'all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to build a network of connects around here. For instance, I would love to know who's got catalytic converters cheap around here. I would love to know that because I got a couple of vehicles that need them. But I mean, the thing about connects is you got to be kind of local to them, right? So I know who does my muffler work is that place on Central, right on the east side of the bridge, right when you come off the bridge. It's got a muffler man. That's how you can tell it's a good muffler shop. It's got that really high lifted old Toyota truck, 4x.
Or the one that
North of Mission. If you've been there, you know. It's right down the block from Avocado House. Yeah. That's where I go. And it's been good. But I need to connect for catalytic converters. I do. Cheap ones, not Rudy price, Rocliffe price.
It's their money.
Yeah, I need something for the Paisa, not for Rudy. Yep. That's funny. So anyway, that's my theory about that. You got plans for next week? What do you want to do? If you tell me what you want a week in advance, I can prepare it. So that might be more likely to get you what you want. But anyways, this is your class, folks. So however you want to run it, you know, we'll run it.
You're doing great.
I have a quick question. Chuck and Rudy, how many semesters have you guys taken? They just keep coming back, or what? You guys
Rudy has been like
I prefer not to
390.
mention.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's cool that they do. That's why I'm saying, like, it. I mean, I'm really digging this class, and I just want